Everybody, John the Other here, obviously. And quite a few people have asked me to address the recent ad for Gillette razors, as well as address the American Psychological Association's recently published guidelines for practice with boys and men. I've also been asked to expand on my idea of creating and sharing voluntary rule sets, reference to my last video, but that's a topic I'll address in its own video. I'm mentioning it here just to let you know it won't be ignored or forgotten. But before we get started, I also got some feedback on my last video pointing out that YouTubers who make a note within their videos that they're keeping their commentary as short as possible are apparently greatly annoying to viewers when they do that. So from now on, whenever I make a note that I'm keeping my videos as short as possible, I will also keep those notifications as short as possible. And I do thank you all for your very kind attention. But let's get started. Now, I'm not a trained psychologist, obviously, so I'm going to focus my comments only on one part of the APA's guidelines, specifically their comments on the philosophy of Stoicism. They mention it twice in their guidelines. On page 11, they say the following. Psychologists also strive to create psychoeducational classes and workshops designed to promote gender empathy, respectful behavior, and communication skills that enhance cross-sex friendships and to raise awareness about and solutions for problematic behaviors such as sexual harassment that deter cross-sex friendships. Psychologists can discuss with boys and men the messages they have received about withholding affection from other males to help them understand how components of traditional masculinity such as emotional stoicism, there it is, homophobia, not showing vulnerability, self-reliance, and competitiveness might deter them from forming close relationships with male peers. So Stoicism is defined there as a problem. And on page 18 of the recently published guidelines, they say, psychologists also strive to reduce mental health stigma for men by acknowledging and challenging socialized messages relating to men's mental health, stigma, example, male stoicism, self-reliance. Importantly, psychologists strive to attain a level of gender self-awareness that allows them to act with intentionality, resisting the imposition of their values and biases on male clients. And again, Stoicism is named as a problem to be challenged. Also remember that the American Psychological Association's guidelines for dealing with men flow out of the feminist popular fashion that maleness is a disease to be cured. And I'll remind you, gentlemen and bastards, that you are, due to your masculinity, all of you, toxic. Or at least that's what the popular advertising copy says. Now, if you happen to not think being masculine makes you toxic, then maybe the redefinition of one of the principal virtues of maleness, that is stoicism, as a problem is actually just a scam trying to do away with that virtue, or a scam against you trying to take it away from you. It happens that prior to my hearing about the American Psychological Association's published guidelines for the mistreatment of men, I had been reading this book right here. This is Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. And if you find the anti-male APA's condemnation of Stoicism to be a signal to you that Stoicism might have some value, then this book is an excellent place to start. I've put a link to the Amazon page for each of the books that I'm mentioning in this video, as well as Abe Books, linked for the same titles for those of you who don't want to use Amazon. Links to those in the low bar. However, because I was already reading Meditations when I heard about the APA's recently published guidelines and their condemnation of Stoicism, that news motivated me to go out and buy this, which is Epictetus's Discourses, bound along with fragments and the title that I was actually looking for, which is Epictetus's Handbook. So, special thanks to the American Psychological Association for their ill-conceived condemnation of Stoicism, motivating me and possibly many others to take a renewed and active interest in pursuing it. Links to those books again will be in the description of this video. But moving on to the Gillette ad, I was reluctant to chime in on this because, as you might have noticed, everyone from Professor Gadsad to Cody from Wrangler Star have given their opinion of this ad, and they're all bigger and arguably better channels than my channel here. So is there anything that hasn't been said? Well, maybe this. I was not offended by Gillette's ad. Now, I mentioned the ad in passing to one of my neighbors, a woman in her 60s, and her response to the pretty widespread blowback against the ad was predictably dismissive. She said, "Oh, get over it." I didn't agree, but I didn't argue on that point because why bother? Well, I said I don't agree, but maybe that needs unpacking. She tried to explain that the ad was appropriate and good, and that men shouldn't be butthurt by a benign and well-intentioned message suggesting that bad male behavior should be challenged, and that decent and good men should step up and blah, blah, blah. You know the rest of this song, right? Men are toxic. Here's what we'd like to see you do to fix yourselves, you filthy troglodyte cavemen bastards. And get over it, right? Just get over it. Well, here's the thing. I am over it. To clarify, I don't mean I'm going to be obediently sucking up the latest anti-male public programming and pull up my retrograde masculine socks to be a more feminist-compliant example of sanitized and castrated masculinity. I mean the political climate that the APA's guidelines emerged out of, that almost all public messaging about maleness comes from, have been poisonous for decades. Gillette's advertisement was not actually unusual. It was just a slightly higher concentrated dose of anti-male scorn than what is usual. Just wait a year and see if next year's Super Bowl ads don't make Gillette's man-bashing look tame by comparison. For their part, Procter & Gamble, the parent company who owns Gillette, has a new Old Spice ad, which I have heard is an attempt to project a positive male image as some sort of damage control for the Gillette commercial fiasco. And lots of guys who were blisteringly angry are saying it's a good ad, but they're not going to forget Gillette's attack on men. This bears repeating. The new Procter & Gamble Old Spice commercial is supposed to be a reversal on their habit of man-bashing established with the Gillette commercial. The script for this Old Spice commercial goes as follows. There is a discount version of Terry Crews dressed in a bathrobe who begins the scene by addressing his attractive wife with the following dialogue. He says, "We have to talk." And discount Terry Crews opens the ad reading sitcom stereotype dialogue of a nagging woman. It's not a joke. There's no punchline in this ad. It doesn't turn funny at the end. It's a big, buff, black man playing the stereotype role of a nagging woman. And at the end of the commercial, he walks away in a snit, only slightly satisfied that men, who now apparently act like negative stereotypes of women, for once get to have their own body wash. This is evidently the repair for going too far in openly slandering your core customer base while trying to sell them social programming and razor blades. Get over it. Well, I did. A long time ago. And I am many years beyond caring or attempting to engage with feminists or their obedient male collaborators. Feminism is a cult of hatred. Its public messages are glittering, incandescent distillations of rage and hate. I'm not responsible for rescuing any of its acolytes. Similarly, I do not need nor do I care to hear praise from any feminist-infected person or professional organization, including the belly-crawling and feminist-compliant American Psychological Association. Every such association, every government, every academic, credentialing, professional organization in the world that exists continues to do so because of men's support, men's labor, men's cooperation across the lines of religion, race, sexuality, and politics. And they continue to exist, all these organizations, and flourish, even while attacking men whose existence and work allows them to continue existing because of men's patience and forbearance in the face of continued attack. Does the patience and forbearance of men have a limit? Will we reach an end of it? I don't know the answer to that. But imagine if the blistering hatred and the activated malice of mainstream feminism was answered with an absence of tolerance by any significant majority of men. That would not be good, to say the least. One last thing before I go. These work just as well as Gillette razors, and they cost half as much. Thanks for listening, and as always, have a lovely day.